Duck was tired. He had been working hard, and he needed to rest in that big shed. But James was blocking his way. "Go away!" James hissed crossly. "You can't come in." "Why?" protested Duck. "The car says you've been calling me names. They say you called me Rusty Red Scrap Iron." "I didn't," said Duck. "And you called me Old Square Wheels," interrupted Henry. "Diesel told me this morning." "I haven't called any of you names. I think Devious Diesel is telling tales to get me into trouble," Duck sighed. But James and Henry didn't believe Duck. Duck was sad, and trundled away to spend the night on the siding. Diesel was delighted. His trick had worked. He had disliked Duck since his first morning in the yard, when Duck told him to fetch some cars. But Diesel had not listened properly. He collected the wrong ones, and Sir Topham Hatt was cross. Diesel chuckled himself when he saw Duck the next morning. "Right. Now Henry and James are on my side. What could I do about Gordon, I wonder?" A few days later, he heard some cars talking in the yard. "Gordon thinks he can go much faster than anything else," they chattered. "How can he? He's old." "Not as old as me," wheezed an elderly brakeman, who had came from the other railway many years before. "I remember the days on my old line, when some of the big engines like Gordon were named after horses, which had won a race called the Derby. Lamberg was one, and Pretty Polly was another. What a silly name for an engine." The cars laughed. "Have you noticed," said the small car, "that Gordon looks like if he's a galloping when he's coming straight towards you? Just like a horse." "That's to do with the ways his side rods are attached to his wheels," Diesel explained as he purred away. He thought the car's conversation that day as he shunted. The next morning, the weather grew very hot. Heat haze shivered around the boilers of Henry and Gordon as they stood outside the shed. Henry just had his water tank filled and was moving away from the water tower. Gordon did not need water, but he had to pass the water tower to get to the station. As he did so, water from the dripping water house splashed onto his boiler, which was so hot that the water sizzled and popped. "Just like sausages frying in the pan," remarked Diesel's driver. Diesel smiled to himself. He had just had an idea. "Do you know what Duck said about Gordon?" Diesel whispered to the cars the next morning. Before the cars could reply, Diesel continued. "Duck says Gordon looks like a galloping sausage." The cars tittered. "You shouldn't laugh," said Diesel sternly. "Duck was being very rude." But the cars don't care about good manners. Soon the galloping sausage story had spread all around the yard, and worst of all, everyone thought that Duck had started the story. It was not long, of course, before Gordon heard what was being said to him. As Diesel expected, Gordon was furious. "Galloping sausage? I've never been so assaulted in my life. What do you mean by it, Duck?" "I'm sorry, Gordon. I don't know anything about it." Gordon let off steam loudly. "That's what you said to James and Henry. The car says it's all you. Diesel says he's asked him about it. Didn't you, Diesel?" Diesel agreed. "I'm a strong engine," said Gordon proudly. "Not a galloping sausage." Duck went sadly away to find his next train. And a few days later, Sir Tom had sent him away to help Edward on his branch line. Sir Tom didn't like his railway to be disrupted by silly stories. He intended to find out which engine was making all the trouble. And when the silly stories was still being told after Duck had gone, he knew which engine was to blame. He had sorted everything out and wasted no time. He spoke to Diesel, who was sent away in disgrace. And soon after that, Duck came back, and Duck was given a great welcome by the other engines. "We're sorry we didn't listen to you," they said. "Please forgive us." Duck did, of course. And now I'm glad to say all the engines are the best of friends again.